Hi, and welcome to the lecture on white box props. In this lecture, we're going to build a bunch of white box props. Going to be very simple objects, but they're going to be perfect for placing in our scene to get the measure of things. So here's the list. You can see I've added 3 new columns: a white box column, a high definition column, and a textured column. And we're going to tick these off as we go along. That's really good project management. Just keep track of everything that we do. So the first thing is a cylinder. Create a cylinder which is going to represent our barrel. And I went online to actually get the correct measurements for a barrel. And which are these? I'm just entering into the radius and the height. And that's it. I'm just going to make it, you can see the box is 1 unit. Doesn't feel very large, so I'm just going to make it slightly larger. But once we get this into our scene and we place it and we can walk around it, once we walk around it we can get a feel of how big it is, and we can make it bigger, smaller until we're happy with it. And then before we create our high poly version, just converting it to a model, a poly model. Okay, now we need to name it. Make sure you give it a good name relevant to the object. Just going to move the object to 0. And I'll do this with all the objects. Reset the X form, go back and collapse the stack, because you don't need to stack at this stage. It's useful later, because you can go back through the stack and it just records all the things that you do to your model, basically. If you remember, change that to 90 on the X. The pivot. And save that, and that's our barrel. And now I'm going to create a folder in meshes, just for the white box objects. New folder and white box. There we go. Go into the folder and save our I'm going to save them all in one file, so I've called it white box all, and this file will hold all our white box models inside it. So save that. Just move that out of the way. Next, we're going to do the axe. A very simple version of an axe, but it'll be perfectly fine for our white box. So into the create box. So create a little box. Start with, that's the blade of the axe. Just put it roughly at 0. Like so. Right, now I'm going to convert it to a poly. Go to poly mode, extrude that face up like so. Just to lower it down a little bit more. There we go. And then extrude out the handle. like that. Okay, I'm just going to pinch the bottom together to form the blade. Select all the verts and scale it together like that. And once it's all together, I'm just going to scale it on the axis. And I'm going to use weld to weld all the verts. Just click one like we did before, move it, just check that it's welded. Yep, that's fine. And that's our basic axe, and that will do for a white box model. You know, once we put these in the scene, we can come back and modify them without any problems. Really useful to get them all in the scene, place them all in the right position, or roughly in the right position, and play with their size and play with the scale of them until we're happy with the space that we're trying to create. If we did this with the high poly versions, it's a lot of work to go back and change something. So we do this to save a lot of time. It may seem like a waste of time at the start, but it's not. Trust me. You'll see it. You'll see it come to fruition once we get them inside Unity and we start placing them around. And if things seem small and insignificant, we can easily scale it, and we can keep playing with it until we're happy with the size. So that's our axe. Now this is the list. I'm going to tick off, fill in green on the axe. There you go. Next up is logs. Save that, and you'll see these columns get filled in as we go along. It's really good to see that. Feels good when you've got lots to tick off. Okay, so I'll start with the cylinder. I'm going to create lots of small cylinders for the log pile. It's probably a bit big. I'll scale that down a bit. Like that. And as we go along, I'm going to sometimes these videos will get sped up and we can't, watching me create lots of little boxy models is not going to be fun. So I'm going to have to, don't forget to switch on your angle snap for when you're rotating objects. It keeps it, it's easy to align it to an axis that way. Just reduce the number of sides. I forgot to name these. Make sure your naming convention for all your box models are really consistent. WB at the start for white box, and then axe obviously, and then for this WP at the start. Okay, here I'm holding down shift and then moving the object, and that copies the object. Really useful feature, saves a lot of time obviously. So just going to do lots of different cylinders, just modify them slightly, different size, different scale. So look like we've got various different logs. This one's going to look a bit like it's been chopped as opposed to just a round log. When we do the high poly model, it's probably not going to be many more polys now, but we'll make it look a lot more high definition You know, it's obviously going to look a bit more rounded and have all the textures on it. There you go. That looks like a log that's been chopped potentially. I think sometimes I spend too much time on these white box models. They probably don't need to be so so different like this, but you know, it's all fun. Okay, so shift and copy another one like so. Sort of scale it to make it slightly different, a bit longer, a bit shorter, slightly a different shape. Yeah, park it there. There you go, just position them. Okay, maybe make another one. Don't worry about the name of them for now. We're going to join them all together once we've finished and then give them one name. So making that one slightly bigger. Just position that. I selected all three of those logs, so you can select multiple objects and hold down shift and move them, and that will copy all the objects that are selected, which is really useful, saves a lot of time. Just going to pull them back here so they're a bit more lined up on the pile. There we go. Need another one up the top there. Just copy that from the bottom because it's slightly smaller. Move it over. There we go. Starting to look like a pile of logs now. Get my cut one, put it on the top, like so. My chopped one, I should say. Pull these back. Yeah, and another one, I'll slightly modify this as well, just to give it a bit of variation. There we go. Rotate it. Yeah, that's cool. Nice pile of logs. Okay, now I'm going to attach them all together so that they are one object using the attach feature there. Look, on the toolbar, so click each one with that selected and they attach together. And there you go, and that one, and that one, and that one. So now they're one object. So if I'm trying to move it now, they'll all move. There we go. I can rename it now. WB log pile. Forget WB at the start. There you go. Probably a little small, but like I said before, we can change all that. Just positioning it so it sits at 0 roughly, the bottom of it. And now I'm going to affect the pivot, so I'm going to move the pivot to 0. Right click on that, 0, 0, 0, there you go, so it sits at 0. And you can see the gizmo there is a bit skew if. It's because I've joined lots of objects together, but once I reset the X form, that will straighten itself out. Collapse the stack. Yep. And yes. just going to check the faces because the shading on it looks a bit weird, so yeah, that's fine. I'm going to redo the smoothing groups. And you sort of have to do this once you connect lots of objects together. They do sort of need refreshing, as it were, sort of, because they become one object. But I can still select each of these logs. Okay, rotate the pivots on the X to 90. There we go. And just all ready for Unity now. Just save that. Alright, so if I use this, which is element, I can still select each of the logs individually, even though it's one object. So if I select that one, I can still move that out of the pile, and it's still an individual. I can detach it and it becomes a separate object, but I'm not going to detach it now. I'm just showing you that the elements of that object still exist. And that's really useful, potentially. I could have used a group. I could have selected them all individually and grouped them, but Unity doesn't understand that. So just simply connecting them and making them one object is much more acceptable to Unity. So there's my logs, my barrel and my axe.